secrets of the past are all around us, hidden in our streets, buried under our feet. And in this series, I'll be uncovering those secrets as I explore Britain's most historic towns. I'll decipher physical clues. Look at that. It's covered with lizard-like scales. And get to know some extraordinary characters who are often overlooked.
He operated like a spy master. They lied, they deceived, they cheated.
With the help of Ben Robinson's Eye in the Sky, I'll discover which towns across the UK reveal the most about each period in British history and find out how those stories still resonate today.
3,880.
More and more individuals are still dying from the plague.
Oh my goodness. From the adventurous Elizabethans to the elegant Georgians, from medieval knights through to the height of empire, I'll tell the story of an era through the story of a single town. Today, I'm in Britain's most Elizabethan town. Secret courtyard.
It's rather like Jeff Bezos living above the Amazon warehouse, you know.
A town that helped forge a brand new, indomitable England and usher in its first golden age. She's absolutely dripping in pearls and gems, isn't she? Home to ruthless pirates who stole millions as England entered the slave trade, but were acclaimed as heroes.
There's this mixture of being patriotic and then also getting rich.
If you really want to understand the Elizabethans in all their crafty, contradictory glory, and the emergence of this new world-encompassing myth of England, then Plymouth is the place to come. '21st century Plymouth is a city that's home to 250,000 people. And it's also a busy, thriving port with regular ferries going across to France and Spain. It has a thriving maritime community. The sea is crucial to the economy here. And Plymouth has always played a pivotal role in this country's defences down the ages. It's home to Devonport, which is the largest naval base in Western Europe. And it's the reason why, in the Second World War, the Luftwaffe flattened half of the city. The naval presence that worried Hitler so much stretches back over 450 years. Tucked away on the south coast of Devon, 16th century Plymouth may have been isolated from the rest of the country, but its position at the gateway to the English Channel made it utterly crucial to Britain's trade and defence, a fact that wasn't lost on the Elizabethans. The Elizabethan era began when the daughter of Henry VIII and his ill-fated second wife Anne Boleyn was crowned Queen of England and Ireland in 1558. Elizabeth's 45-year reign saw England blossom from bankrupt backwater to global player, laying down the foundations for an empire that would soon exploit great swathes of the globe. There are no records of Elizabeth actually ever setting foot in Plymouth, but it's claimed that here on the Hoe is where Francis Drake casually finished his game of bowls before sailing off to destroy the supposedly invincible Spanish Armada. But like many of the best stories, it's not exactly true. But what's certain is that Plymouth was playing a crucial role. It was at the heart of the action during the Elizabethan age. How was it that a small, relatively remote town of just a few thousand people became such a key player? To understand that, first I need to know what kind of kingdom, or indeed queendom, Elizabeth inherited. I'm meeting historian Dr. Miranda Kaufman to find out. When Elizabeth came to the throne, what did she inherit?
A real quagmire of problems. The country was in debt,
It was a religiously divided country. She had enemies abroad, and to make it even worse, she was a woman.
And a single woman?
Yes.
So, you know, presumably with no prospect of marriage, or people
lots of
expecting her to get married?
Like, there was a huge pressure on her to get married immediately. You know, people were looking to her to find a man who could then be their king.
Yeah.
Her sister Mary had been drawn into Spain's war against France, which had been disastrous. Just that January, England had lost Calais, the last English foothold on the continent. She was going to make England Protestant again, which was going to lead to it to being really isolated in Catholic Europe.
So in its stubborn pursuit of sovereignty, England found itself at loggerheads with an all-powerful European neighbour. Sound familiar?
Despite poor foreign relations, England was still trading with Catholic Europe, still exporting to the continent.
Valuable commodities like locally mined tin were very much in demand. And with an array of tidal rivers all ending at Plymouth, the town soon became a key export hub.
As is so often the case, one or two businesses start to do really well, and then a whole load of others take off in their wake. And before you know it, Plymouth is a boom town.
I've entered a prime part of Elizabethan Plymouth, an area today referred to as the Barbican. A few remaining blocks of businesses and houses tucked away down by the waterside. Archaeologist Wyn Scutt knows every inch of this old mercantile district.
It does feel like we're getting into the heart of old Plymouth here.
It is nice. You've got all this lovely granite and slate and the Plymouth limestone as well.
Despite many buildings dating to later centuries, a walk down New Street can still transport you back 450 years.
You see these beautiful Elizabethan doorways.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Yeah?
Is that
the
original?
carvings, that's original.
That's lovely.
Lovely work. And there's a couple here with angels on them.
Original Elizabethan, isn't it?
Yes, look at the angels on the top here. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, they're lovely.
So there's lots of Elizabethan Plymouth surviving here in New Street.
Built for prosperous French wine merchant Thomas Yock, Preston House was one of the finest houses in Elizabethan Plymouth.
This would have been the place to live in the 16th century.
Now part of a restaurant, the house is open to the public, but I'm lucky enough to be getting a private tour.
Mind your head. Look at this.
Oh, this is gorgeous.
Isn't it fantastic?
Secret courtyard.
Yes. It's just shouting prestige. The merchant here wants to show his affiliation with France, with Venice, with all the great traders of Europe, I think, because he's importing wine, you know. And,
I mean, it feels really Mediterranean.
but this is where all the barrels and all the warehouse is. Essentially, this is rather like Jeff Bezos living above the Amazon warehouse, you know. He's living upstairs, but all the work, he can keep a direct eye, he can come out of those doors and see his staff working or not working, you know, so he can supervise the whole operation.
Surveying his empire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other successful merchants had their premises in the tight streets of the Old Town.
A lot of work's been done. We've had specialist contractors, and they've come from all over the country.
This restoration really is a work in progress, and Heritage Officer Hannah Pooley's team are still uncovering original Elizabethan features.
Okay, are you ready? Let's go in. Okay, come on in. Welcome to 32 New Street.
Oh, this is great.
Quite lucky with this house because it's the most authentic version of an Elizabethan house left in Plymouth. And that's why it's so special.
Its quayside position made this house a prime location for sea captains and entrepreneurs.
They'd come here to the middle of Plymouth when it was bustling and busy to work and be near their businesses.
So it's office space?
Yeah, and sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some of them would have 2 rooms. They might have an office at the front and a bedroom at the back.
Yeah.
Some people rented 1 room, so they would have done everything in that 1 room.
Among the many exotic goods being traded on Plymouth's quayside was tobacco, which was obviously being sampled right here on site, as these were found under the floorboards.
And they must be some of the earliest clay pipes in England.
Yep, this is the most complete early pipe we found. And this dates again, 17th century, maybe a bit earlier.
Yeah, I don't know an enormous amount about clay pipes, but I do know that the styles vary a lot over time and that they're very dateable.
They do, and you can see the bowl here is much bigger.
Yeah.
And the bowl on the Elizabethan, or slightly later, is smaller, and that's because tobacco costs so much more.
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it, to think about these foodstuffs and things like tobacco, which seem quite ordinary now.
Yeah.
But this was the first time that people had seen them, had access to them in Europe. Yeah.
And then for hundreds of years, they smoked them in this house.
Yeah, you can imagine these rooms, can't you, all misty,
Yes.
with the pipe smoke and these kind of
Absolutely.
deals being struck about the next ships coming in. And
Yeah, but at the back it was Castle Street, and Castle Street was renowned for pubs and for sex work as well. So there were lots of women working back there, and it's very possible that the men that were living in these rooms, away from their families, were having a bit of fun of their own.
easy access to all of that,
Yeah.
slightly salacious side of life in a port.
Absolutely. Later on, it would become known as Damnation Alley.
Damnation Alley!
Yeah, so it tells you something about what life was like there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've struck a good deal. Off they go out the back.
Yeah.
If sealing a deal Elizabethan style raises an eyebrow, many of the intrepid men who sailed from Plymouth would employ far more morally compromised methods and use them with Elizabeth's blessing.
They'd open up new worlds, create new trading opportunities and protect England from enemy forces, but there weren't any epaulets on the shoulders of these men. They were pirates.
I'm in Plymouth to learn how, during the eventful reign of Elizabeth I, this small town helped change the course of England's history, from being an also-ran nation to becoming a country whose empire would eventually span the globe. I've already seen evidence of an economy based on exotic goods, but there was also a thriving fishing industry here, with sailors crossing the Atlantic to catch cod off the coast of Newfoundland, to be traded back here and in foreign ports. However, not all local sailors were above board. Aerial archaeologist Ben Robinson has launched his drone from the headland across the water to get a better look at why Plymouth was the perfect place to get up to no good.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm getting a brilliant sense here of why this is considered to be one of the finest natural harbours in the world. It's got a wide open mouth to the sea, relatively sheltered but easy to access. I can see all the headlands here, all the outcrops of rock. There's little inlets, there's little bays, there's little beaches, there's reefs, there's rocky outcrops. We've got fishermen, we've got cargo boats, all manner of vessels. So the mariners in this place would have been mixing all sorts of activities together. Perhaps if fishing was a bit quiet, they'd have been doing other things. Perhaps some of these things were a little bit non-legitimate, a little bit nefarious. And if you want places to hide, places to slip under the noses of the authorities, this harbour's got them.
In the 1560s, many of these rogue ships that had sailed from Plymouth returned loaded with valuable treasures stolen from Europe's richest, most powerful nation. Spain had grown rich by plundering the Americas for its wealth and was also Queen Elizabeth's arch-enemy. I've met up with Dr. Elaine Murphy to learn more about the role pirating played in the European power struggle.
Elaine, why was there so much enmity between Spain and England at this point in time?
There's a huge problem for the Spanish with a lot of English pirates attacking Spanish merchant and fishing fleets in the Channel and the North Sea.
But why are the Spanish in the Channel? I don't understand.
There's a lot of Spanish trade to the Spanish Netherlands, the modern Netherlands and Belgium, because the Spanish rule there, but the Dutch are in revolt against them, so they're trying to gain their freedom.
Yeah.
You also have the problem that Dutch privateers called sea beggars, who are fighting against the Spanish, are using English ports and are being permitted by Elizabeth to sell their goods and get supplies here. So this is really alienating King Philip II of Spain.
Oh, you can see he must have been incredibly frustrated. You know, not only are the English attacking his ships, but they're also supporting these sea beggars as well.
It's really frustrating for Philip.
Two men in particular were really annoying King Philip. Both were from South Devon, they sailed from Plymouth, and they were also cousins. John Hawkins was a master seafarer and arguably England's first ever slave trader. He stole slaves from Portuguese ships and sold them into a life of appalling misery in the West Indies. Actions effectively sanctioned by Queen Elizabeth, who awarded Hawkins a coat of arms with a bound slave at the top. Sailing with him and playing his part in stealing from Spain and Portugal and the rise of the slave trade was Hawkins' cousin, Francis Drake, who also ended up working for his queen. I'm visiting the Box, Plymouth's almost finished new museum and gallery, to see something remarkable.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I know we're here to talk about pirates, Alice, but don't be distracted by the mammoth in the room.
It's a bit difficult not to be distracted by the mammoth in the room, though, isn't it?
It's absolutely amazing. It's really beautiful.
So the galleries we've come through, those will all be open to the public when the museum does open, but this is all behind the scenes
Yes,
now.
this is here in the archival store in the Box, so this bit won't be open to the public.
I'm here to see an incredible piece of
Very
evidence
careful with it.
that directly connects Drake's actions to the existential needs of his queen and country.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It's lovely. Look at that seal.
Absolutely beautiful
That's
Elizabethan
Elizabeth.
seal. That's Elizabeth on the seal, so it's a really beautiful seal, really, really well preserved.
Yeah. You can make out details of her face and her ruff. And it's on vellum.
Elizabeth, by the grace of God, Queen of England, France and Ireland, defender of the faith, to my loving and faithful subject, Sir Francis Drake.
Drake,
Knight.
there.
Greetings. Yes.
Yeah. And what's she saying in it?
She is ordering him the performance of such matters which have been committed to your charge. So she's not actually giving him a specific commission to do something. She's put him in charge of a fleet to attack the Spanish at Cadiz.
But she's not mentioning Cadiz. She's not mentioning the Spanish. It's all very obscure here.
Yes. This document's all about how he's in charge of the fleet and how everybody must obey him.
And there's kind of a bleak reference to the matters that she's committed to his
to
charge.
such matters, yeah.
That gives her a bit of a get-out, doesn't it?
A bit of a get-out, and it gives Drake a lot of leeway to do whatever he sees as right.
Yeah.
The Queen gives Drake some ships to sail with him in this voyage, but most of the ships are privately owned, so they're private men of war. So they're going to attack the King of Spain, but these men are also going to hope to get rich from this. They're going to hope to capture Spanish prizes. So it's both a preemptive strike and a privateering voyage.
Having sailed from Plymouth in 1587, Drake's small fleet attacked the Spanish fleet in port at Cadiz in southern Spain. It was an audacious operation that successfully delayed Spanish preparations to invade England. And as usual, Drake made sure he returned home with his ships full of treasure.
So he's acting privately, but very much under the aegis of Elizabeth.
Yes, the Queen is caught up in everything and will take a share of all the profits these men make.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it reminds me of, I don't know, stories of espionage today where, you know, spies are doing things, obviously, with the blessing and with the encouragement of the countries they're acting for, but then the countries can completely deny any connection with it.
I think that's important, the deniability, but also you don't want to say where you're going in this, because what if this fell into Spanish hands, or what if a Spanish spy found it? So there's this mixture of serving the crown, being patriotic, and then also getting rich, which is that lovely combination of privateering that Drake has really learnt over a long time from people like his mentor, Sir John Hawkins.
Drake continued to plunder and harass the galleons of Spain and Portugal, whose empire Spain now controlled. Infuriated, Europe's most powerful nation was ready for war with England. The scene was set for Plymouth's two most notorious sailors to turn from state-sponsored pirates to saviours of their nation.
I'm in Plymouth, a city whose streets were said to have been paved with gold during Elizabeth's golden era, and that gold came from Spain, stolen by Plymouth's famous and globally feared pirates. I think their activities changed the whole mood of England in the 1570s. It began to swagger, it puffed out its chest and strode around the ring of European politics and unashamedly set out to antagonise the Catholic world. England began to believe that it was a contender.
Arguably, the man who was doing the most to create this new confidence was Francis Drake, Plymouth's superstar sailor. Sometimes it seems this town is one great homage to Drake. There's a shopping centre which actually draws parallels with the man himself. In 2006, it was crowned Worst New Building in Britain, but another panel decided it was Shopping Location of the Year. Drake provoked the same sort of reaction. A flawed hero today, Elizabethans simply couldn't ignore his success.
Drake wrote accounts of his adventures, and it's fair to say that he presented an extremely generous portrait of himself. He wanted to describe himself as a heroic maritime genius. But he was hated by Spain and the rest of Catholic Europe. He stole their slaves and their gold. He was also hated by the English court. He thought that he was a jumped-up Plymouth peasant.
But Drake knew that his queen and country were broke, and that if he could change that, he would be accepted into her inner circle. What he needed was the ultimate haul of Spanish treasure. In 1577, Drake set out from Plymouth for the gold-rich Pacific coast of South America, girded by the treacherous Magellan Straits. Once through, Drake had free rein over the undefended ships and ports of the entire west coast of the Americas. In his ship, the Golden Hind, Drake looped up the coast, loading up with unheard-of amounts of Spanish treasure, even claiming what's now California for his queen. He set off for home via the Pacific and the southern tip of Africa. Drake's epic 3-year voyage made him a national hero, but alongside the gold in his cargo, once again, there were slaves. Miranda Kaufman has been studying these voyages.
So was it all as heroic as perhaps we're sometimes led to believe?
Of course not. Something that really shocked me that I don't think many people know about is they captured this African woman called Maria on one of the Spanish ships, and then they abandon her heavily pregnant on an island somewhere in Indonesia with 2 other African men that have also joined the ship on the voyage.
And, do we know what happened to her? Does history record?
No. But I mean, whether she even survived the childbirth in those circumstances is, anyone's bet. And no one knows who the father was either.
So by that time then, by the time they'd abandoned Maria on the island, they're continuing to head west, and eventually they get all the way back to Britain. How much money had he made?
Well, we know that Elizabeth herself pocketed more than her usual annual revenue of 250,000. She got more than that. Yes, from the thing. He takes his cut. And along the way, he's knighted, he's made Mayor of Plymouth, he becomes an MP, he gets his own coat of arms, he's made it.
And he buys this place?
And he buys this place.
Buckland Abbey is a monument to Drake's success. The boy from a small house in Devon had become not only the first Englishman to command a complete circumnavigation of the globe, he was now a firm favourite of his queen and Lord of the Manor.
What a beautiful place.
For Drake, there was a delicious irony in moving into this particular property.
Oh, this is fantastic.
By using intermediaries, he'd tricked his posh local rival, Sir Richard Grenville, into selling it to him.
So is that Elizabethan, that ceiling and the friezes?
Yeah, so this would have been what Grenville put in. The date above the fireplace is 1576.
So Drake didn't need to do much decoration then when he arrived?
Could waltz straight in and start partying.
Yeah.
To honour his achievements, Drake was granted his own coat of arms, a clear symbol of acceptance in the Elizabethan era.
Oh, that's a splendid coat of arms. And then at the bottom it says Sic Parvis Magna. My Latin's a bit rusty. So from small big.
From humble beginnings to greatness.
That sounds better. That's more poetic, isn't it? Yeah.
Alongside a knighthood, Elizabeth gave Drake this astonishing brooch, here being worn by Mrs. Drake in this ostentatious portrait.
So this is Drake's wife?
Yes, who he marries in 1585.
And she is dressed so sumptuously. I mean, she's dripping in pearls. And I must say, there's more than a passing resemblance here, surely, to Elizabeth.
Well, it was the fashion, wasn't it? Elizabeth was dressed in high fashion. This lady, also Elizabeth, dressed in high fashion with the ruff and the pearls and this was the look to go for.
Drake, now bursting with confidence, turned his mind from global adventures to improving his own backyard. With its great inlets of brackish tidal waters, Plymouth badly needed a consistent supply of fresh water. Now, as mayor, Drake used his guile to lobby Parliament for funds to create one. Some of the resulting structures still exist today, and Ben Robinson has taken a trip up onto Dartmoor to take a look.
There we go. Starting to get a bit of height now, and things are suddenly becoming a lot clearer. I can see what I'm looking for starting to emerge. It's a curving earthwork, a channel, a leat. This is Drake's leat, an artificial watercourse. And the idea of this was to bring fresh water down from Dartmoor, where there's an abundance of the stuff. And what it intended to do was to help scour out the harbour with this flow of fresh water, but also to be used for firefighting and to provision the Navy. Very, very important. Can we just get a little bit lower, Max? Yeah, that's good, great. So we're zooming in now. Crikey, we're flying along it. It's a narrow channel. It's only about 6 foot wide. It's fairly shallow, 2 foot deep, but that's all that was needed to carry this water down.
This is a Victorian reservoir, but it would have been the mill pond for one of Drake's mills, of the flour mill right here. Because you see, the water from the leat never reached the sailors, and instead Drake took full advantage of this new watercourse and built mills along it. It might be the first example of a big public infrastructure project that only ended up benefiting a very small number of people. Something that mayors in Britain and around the world have been working hard to perfect ever since.
Drake brazenly embezzled funds for his own gain and naturally got away with it, a fact that might have been hard to swallow for the less well-off in Elizabethan England. Back then, people without any financial security, especially women, were subject to a harsh system of justice administered by the church court. I've headed to St Andrew's Church, which was used as an informal courtroom. I'm meeting historian Dr. Todd Gray, who's been studying a revealing archive of the trials held here.
These documents from the church court are fantastic because they are the words which are meant to have been spoken in anger or in malice. They're slander cases. So this one here, a group of women over here, one woman being told by a man, Moses Goodyear, to go back to the stairs and to the stable, implying that this woman has been having illicit sex in a number of places, including on the stairs and in the stable.
So it's basically about somebody being called a whore.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's whore. It could be bobtail, punk, queen, harlot, strumpet. There are about 30 words one can call a woman with immoral ways.
Yeah.
We judge women by their virtue, men by their honesty.
Okay. Doesn't sound particularly fair. So have you got some specific examples of some choice slander here?
Ninny Hammer.
What's that?
Ninny Hammer is a bit of a blockhead, a stubborn man,
Yeah.
a stupid man. whereas a ninny cock
Sounds rude.
yeah, it's a man whose wife has left him sexually redundant.
Oh.
Whereas in this case, we have two women who are arrested for being poor.
Just for being poor?
They're found in a ditch, sleeping. They are thought to be beggars. They can't be begging, and they are pushed back to where they come from. But before that, and as we see in here, they are to be going to the next market day to be whipped about the town as whores and vagabonds.
Oh, my goodness.
And they had their hands tied to the back of a cart, they had their tops taken off, and then whipped until they were bloody going through the streets. And you would have had somebody with a tin pot and a spoon making noise before, and it was this great sort of procession, humiliation, shame, but physical punishment on top.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a spectacle. Nothing like enjoying a good spectacle.
A system of justice that administers such harsh punishment to a simple homeless woman, yet turns a blind eye to Drake's wholesale plunder, begs the question, how did he get away with it?
He's got a moral imperative. You know, he's doing it for the right reasons. He says he's doing it for God.
He's not doing it for money, then?
No.
He happens,
His
happens to be making
justification always is he's doing it as a good Protestant against the Catholics,
money. Yeah.
against the Pope. So he's got moral right on his side.
It seems morality could be quite flexible for the Elizabethans. But the double standards of men like Drake would drive an even deeper wedge between Protestants and Catholics.
So many of the power struggles during the Elizabethan era seem on the surface of it to be about two versions of Christianity pitted against each other. Queen Elizabeth I is Protestant. Mary, Queen of Scots, beheaded in 1587, was Catholic. And then there's this epic battle between Protestant and Catholic forces at sea. But really, that's all about trade, money, and power. After years of suffering not only the indignity, but real financial losses as the trade and military routes of the Catholic Spanish Empire are disrupted by Protestant English pirates, King Philip of Spain finally cracks. Retribution was coming.
I'm in Plymouth to discover why it was the Elizabethan era's most infamous and important town. In the 1560s and 70s, as the home port of Queen Elizabeth's sea dogs, it was teeming with craft and cunning that had been driving Prince Philip of Spain mad with frustration.
The English were constantly stealing goods from the Spanish, and the island of Britain stood in the way, blocking Spanish trade routes to northern Europe. By the late 1500s, Queen Elizabeth and all her advisors knew that Spain would eventually declare war on England. They just didn't know when that was going to happen. They also knew that Spain had the most powerful navy in the world, while all they had was a ragbag collection of old ships and borrowed merchant vessels. But here in Plymouth, what they did have were the most knowledgeable and experienced sailors in the world. And this is where John Hawkins comes back into our story.
Incredibly, Hawkins had risen from slave-trading pirate to become the unrivalled supremo of Elizabeth's navy, tasked with whipping it into shape for the inevitable confrontation with Spain. A typical Tudor warship, such as the Mary Rose, was top-heavy, slow and cumbersome to manoeuvre, qualities that helped her capsize in Portsmouth Harbour in 1545. Spanish galleons followed many of the same design principles. Hawkins favoured the ideas of innovative shipwright Matthew Baker, whose designs prioritised speed, mobility and stability. Built in 1763, this covered slipway in Plymouth's Devonport Naval Base is the oldest remaining in the world. It's currently used by Will Sterling, whose team use centuries-old construction methods and who understands the influence of Hawkins on warship design.
You're the latest in a long line of shipwrights that's worked here then?
Maybe so, yeah.
What do you think was the main difference in ship design as we move into the Elizabethan era?
Hawkins was the figurehead of a move to make the boats deeper and made them more stable. They could carry more guns, get your ballast lower down. But also, and more importantly, it meant that they could go closer to the wind.
So Hawkins is designing boats, or at least commissioning boats that were designed with a hull that rode lower in the water. Is that a differently shaped hull?
Maybe so. And it might be easiest to explain that by looking at these two boats here. Both those boats are the same length. Boat on the left, quite a shallow boat, 60 tons. And on the right, you've got quite a deep boat, 160 tons.
In terms of the displacement?
The displacement, yeah. So just because she's that much deeper, she's almost 3 times the weight, yet the same size on top of the water.
All that extra room made space for new, longer-range, rapid-fire cannon, which English armourers had been at the forefront of developing. Manoeuvrability plus firepower meant the small English fleet was suddenly a much more formidable fighting machine. But there were the basics to attend to as well. The shipyards of Plymouth had to make sure these wooden ships were as watertight as possible.
So you're just finishing off this ship then?
Yeah.
Will is showing me a technique employed by Elizabethan shipbuilders. Oakum is a tarred felt that seals the gaps between the planks.
You're sort of bunching it up into the seam, and this is just getting it into the seams.
It seems amazing that that's going to be watertight enough.
No, really watertight and really strong, yeah.
Will makes it look really easy. Definitely something I can have a go at, surely.
All you've got to do is get it in the seam, and then you can tap it in a bit more afterwards. The wages were based on how many feet you caulked in a day.
Oh, my goodness.
Do you think you've been enough?
I'm not going to make enough for dinner, I don't think. Yeah.
Luckily, John Hawkins had far more skilled shipwrights to help build his ships for the new Queen's Navy. And because he was treasurer of the Navy, crucially, he controlled the purse strings.
Hawkins had the access to the funds, so we can all have great ideas, but making those ideas happen, you need to have access to money.
Yeah, so it's not private enterprise and innovation. No. This is state-sponsored R&D.
Yeah.
They're pitted against those European powers.
Yeah, that's it. No, that's it. They're pitted against, and they're trying to make sure that they're the best, and they want to have that edge.
Hawkins got Elizabeth's new navy ready just in time, because in July 1588, the greatest fleet of warships the world had ever seen hove into view just off the coast of Plymouth.
We've been here before. This is the bit where Francis Drake, who by now was Vice Admiral of the English fleet, nonchalantly finishes off his game of bowls on Plymouth Hoe. That takes us into the realms of mythology. We need to wrestle ourselves back to reality and look at what was actually happening out there in Plymouth Harbour over this couple of weeks. Ben Robinson is out on the headland with his state-of-the-art crow's nest to give us the bigger picture of that first great Battle of Britain.
If you could just pan round just to the left a little bit, that would be great. So I can now get the view. This is where the English fleet had to navigate through these waters, out through the Sound and into the open sea. And the tide was against them, the winds were against them. There was a strong southwesterly blowing, much like today. And they literally had to haul themselves out of the harbour. They mustered off Rame Head at the mouth of the Sound, and they knew the Armada was waiting for them. And we've got a view here, a near contemporary view of what was going on. And here we are. Here are the English ships off to meet the Armada, which is in this vast crescent formation, great defensive formation. The ships with the big guns can protect all the lightly armed ships, the cargo ships, the troop carriers in the centre there. The plan of the Armada is to rendezvous on the coast of the Netherlands, pick up a massive invasion force, and the target is London, striking at the capital itself. If that happens, it's all over, game over, the kingdom's lost. The Armada moors up at Calais here, and during the night, Drake sends fire ships. These are ships set on fire, full of incendiary gunpowder, to disrupt the moored Armada. And it works. They're in a complete panic. Some of them slip their anchors and head out to sea. Some of them stay where they are. The English are outgunned, but they've got speed on their side. They've got maneuverability on their side. They can position themselves, get in, attack, and get out again. The Spanish are panicked by this. The English have broken up the fleet. They chase them up the east coast of England. The Spanish have to carry on round Scotland, and they're lashed by ferocious Atlantic storms. They're dispersed, they're wrecked, they've lost. The English have won.
It was an astonishing outcome. The Spanish were so sure that they were just going to romp to victory, that their admiral, Medina Sidonia, has identified Mount Edgecombe House just over there on the hill in Cornwall as his future home. He never got it.
Plymouth's two Knights of the Sea wouldn't enjoy their status as national heroes for long. Unable to resist the rich rewards of long voyages, both Hawkins and Drake returned to the Caribbean, where they both died at sea. But their deeds had already inspired hundreds of others to follow in their wake.
There is another famous son of Devon who we haven't heard much about yet, but he was often here in Plymouth and quite closely linked with Queen Elizabeth, if we're to believe the stories.
He is, of course, Walter Raleigh. I've caught up with Todd Gray again to find out how this iconic English name fits into Plymouth's Elizabethan saga.
Todd, you can't really come to Plymouth and talk about history without mentioning Raleigh.
Well, Raleigh's the flip side to Drake. He's handsome, he's charming, he's an intellectual, he's a writer, born 50 miles away, but his colonization attempts start off from here. He's a very rich figure that we know an awful lot about. And he has this idea of colonization rather than smash and grab.
So he's not a privateer like Drake, then?
He does do some of that, but that's not his main thrust, I think, what his legacy is. His legacy is establishing a New England in the Americas. He wants to colonize the whole of the coast, and he owns 3,000 miles of coastline. Doesn't quite work, and it takes a little while for it to succeed.
Disease and starvation meant Raleigh's colonies all failed, and in 1603, a tired Queen Elizabeth died without an heir. However, the colonising zeal that was pioneered by the Elizabethans would take root in a big way thanks to a certain ship named Mayflower that sailed from right here in Plymouth in 1620.
The only way they can colonize New England is by exporting Puritans.
Yeah.
Religious fundamentalists will bear it. They'll stick it out, the cold, the miserable conditions, the poverty, just so that they have a place to pray in their way. So we get rid of them, they start up New England, and then it turns into a land bonanza.
Yeah.
So more and more people go out there for the land and they change the colony.
It's quite deeply uncomfortable history, isn't it? The idea of going over to another country, another continent, and just seizing it for yourself. There were people there already. I find it quite strange.
I mean, I have ancestors who were on the Mayflower.
Do you?
So we weren't...
You don't?
I do.
You traced it back?
I do. I have Stephen Hopkins, and they weren't religious fundamentalists. They were land grabbers.
Yeah.
So instead of bigots, they were thieves. So I'm slightly better with that.
But look, you're here now. There are the Mayflower steps. Your ancestors
Well,
stepped off these
would've-
steps onto those ships and off they went.
Yeah.
And you're back here.
Yeah.
Apart from it wasn't those steps, was it? Because
No,
they're
it's not.
Victorian.
They're Victorian.
Yeah.
But never mind. They're like the steps they would have used when they came down.
Yeah. How does that feel?
Well, I think a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something to be happy about. It's something that happened in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to look back to the Elizabethan era, Britain's relationship with the world, think about where we are now.
The Puritans called their American colony Plymouth, and just over 150 years later, their descendants were living in a new independent country. But by then, Britain's growing empire was about to enter its most omnipotent global phase. An empire built on momentum gained in the expansionist, sometimes violent, often extraordinary Elizabethan era.
Plymouth was at the heart of it all, its bustling dockside streets bursting with the ideas of entrepreneurs, its intrepid mariners pushing at the envelope of exploration, bringing back a bounty that would save a queen from bankruptcy. And those two men, those second cousins, who went from being pirates to heroes of the nation. This, for me, is why Plymouth is Britain's most Elizabethan town.